Hello there, I'm Lisa Linfield, and I'm so excited to welcome you on this journey of budgeting. As I mentioned in my email, and I always say, it has the worst reputation, this whole thing of budgeting and tracking your expenses. And I totally understand why, because it's a complete and utter pain in the butt, usually, until you change your thinking. And as I always say, and I wrote a book on how to change your thinking. Once you change your thinking and see something differently, it really changes the way you experience it. So for all of us, we really need to think about tracking our expenses and having an idea about what our budget should be as like this massive, beautiful city walls that protect our life and the life we want to live from all the invasions and demands on our money. And once we can do that, it truly redefines how we engage with this little spreadsheet. Because when you set up your budget and when you know exactly how much money you spend and how much you have to spend, it is much easier to say no to the people who ask you for money. It's much easier to know exactly whether you can or can't afford that thing you want to buy. And it's much easier to say, goodness, I've got a little bit left over. Instead of just having a meal at home, I'm going to take my family out. So it really is your protector. It really is your guide. But tracking your expenses every single month is the leak detector that will show you where you're going over. And so I personally use this exact spreadsheet to track my expenses. So let me put that in perspective. I'm financially free. So what I do is that twice a year, in 2 months of the year, I will track every single cent that I spend, including little pieces of coins or whatever that I give out for charity or things like that. So twice a year, I track everything. And what I'm tracking for is to see how far off my budget I am. But you must remember that I've been doing this for years, so I have quite a feel of it. So if you are in debt, or if you're in a financially tight situation, or if you're not used to tracking your expenses and you don't have a feel for your budget, what you need to do is to track this regularly. I mean, people in debt need to track it daily or weekly or monthly, but you need to get used to having a feel for how much you really can afford to make sure that you come in with enough money to save. So let me take you through the spreadsheet. This spreadsheet has 2 or 3 tabs, how to use this, budget and monthly actuals. So where we want to start is with the monthly actuals. And it'll look like this when you download it, which is a bit scary with all those div zeros. But effectively what happens is that the sheet calculates everything for you, so it's easy. So what you do is you complete these blue, gray, purpley box with your actuals. So if I'm earning 1,000 at work and I get 1,200 as a bonus, easy numbers because it's just easier for maths, then 1,200 as a bonus once a year is effectively 100 a month. So then I'll say, okay, I have 100 over there. I get 10 for rent each month, and then from my side hustle business, I get probably around 2. So then that will give a total income. You see, it's all just calculated it. And what you'll see up here is that the income number populates. So I get 1,112 for a month. So I'm just going to put random numbers in so that I can do this. So if my groceries are 5 and my rent and mortgage is 10, and my home insurance is 1, and I'm just going to put 1 in all of these little boxes just to kind of fill it up, you'll see how it goes. And effectively you do that for everything. But what's important over here, and what I want to show you over here, is that the sheet counts how many months you enter. So if this month I got 1,000, and there's 100 for that bonus, but this month my rent was only 8, and my income from my side hustle business was 3. What it does is it's counting that you've entered 2 months of stuff. So it's averaging this over it. So instead of it being 10, this average has now gone down to 9. So it's averaging all of this. And what you want to do is try and enter a minimum of 3 months of expenses to work out how much you're getting in income and expenses every single month. If I have 3 months worth of data, that's better. 4 months is better. And the reason why you want to try and build a year's picture is so that you can see things like the festive season, holidays, gifts, things like that, that don't happen maybe in the last month. And you can start budgeting for it. So if, for example, there is in medical, there's additional, so we might have had no medical stuff in January, but in February we had 20, and nothing in March, but in May we had 15. Then it's we can kind of see that over a 4-month period we got 9. So that's an important thing just to note, is that you must put something in. If you don't have public transport costs, put 0. But if you have a car repayment of 3, then that's fine. But if you put the 0, you'll see it still counts it as 1. So it tells the spreadsheet that there's nothing in there. But over here, if we didn't put that, look here, if we didn't put that over there, your average would be 18 a month, and it's not, because it only counts 2 months worth of expenses in here. And what we needed to know is that actually there was nothing. So those are 4 months. Over a 4-month period, we've only spent 9 a month, because it averages it out. And the reason why you want to get a realistic average is that we then go to the budget. And what happens in the budget is that it'll pull through those actuals over here. And it pulls through all of the stuff that you need to get or to have. And then what you can do is you can set your budget. So if on average you're getting 1,112 a month, you might say, okay, I'm always going to get 1,000 from work, and my bonus is usually 1,200 a year, but let's just say for good budgeting or for prudent budgeting, we'd say it's only 1,000 divided by 12. It's only 1,000, not 1,200. So instead of 100, it'll be 83 will be my budget, etc. Let's say from other sources, my rent, we'll work on that 9, which is okay. But actually what we're going to do is we're going to work on 8, just in case we have a month that doesn't have rent. From my side hustle business, it's 3, but let's just work on 2, just in case. I'm more prudent. I always work on less. And then I can see that actually I have 1,093 to spend a month. And then what happens is once you have tracked your actuals for as many months as you possibly can, you will start to see how much you're actually spending each month. And I promise you, we all underestimate how much we spend each month. It doesn't matter who you are. Once you have a sense of your budget, then you can say, okay, actually, at the moment, my income is never going to cover those expenses. It doesn't matter how much I cut. It's never going to cover my current expenses. And then what you need to do is say, okay, well, what does that mean? It might mean that we need to downsize our house and get a smaller house so we pay less rent. It might mean that we have to make more money. And as many of you will know, I'm a fan of the side hustle because I think it's actually easier to bring in more income than it is to cut your expenses. That's what this budget gets you. So you can track all of the money that you're spending, and you can track your budget, and you can see how well you're doing. So let me explain another concept here, which is the difference between needs and wants. So I have set up the spreadsheet to start getting you conscious about needs, wants, nice to haves, explore. And needs are the bare minimum that you need to survive. And it's really important you think this way, because I deal every single day with people in retirement who don't have enough money. And what they thought that they needed in their 50s and what they've learned to live on in their 70s are completely different. So usually, for example, in needs, I say to people, let's use 60% of your grocery and cleaning, because when we have income, we spend more money. And that's just one of the laws, is the more money that's available, the more we spend. So you must separate your expenses from needs into and wants. So Eating at home is a need. Every single person on this planet needs to eat. But we don't have to have dessert. That's a nice to have grocery. We don't have to entertain. We don't have to eat. If you don't have money when you're retired, you can't eat out. So any of those things are wants. It's nice to be able to eat out. It's nice to be able to have a gym membership. Trust me, when you don't have enough money and you're retired, you're walking around the garden, So that's the first thing you need to do. And then there are things like explore, which are bucket list stuff. So I have over here for vacations, a weekend away and maybe an annual vacation. But again, that comes in the kind of want category, as opposed to going overseas and exploring and going to see Machu Picchu or whatever it is. As you start to think about these things differently, it will change the way you see money. It's what do you really need in order to survive? And one thing coronavirus taught most of us is we need a lot less to survive than we thought we did. Then there's the category of children, and we always keep that as a separate cost, because when we're planning for your retirement, you won't be supporting kids. So we keep that as a separate expense, and it is definitely closer to a need expense than a want. We need to educate our children. We need to clothe them. They need to go to school, And then we have this explore category, and then we have give. And it's so important that you start to separate your thinking into these buckets, because when we come to working out how much you need in order to live a financially free life or retire, then we use these buckets and we use the thinking around the separation of, do I really need this expense in order to work out how much money can you save for retirement? So the last thing we need to talk about is, if a budget is the wall of our city, how do we create an extra moat that protects us from life's shocks? So you'll see over here in this wants category that there is this category of savings. And I use this 4-jar system when it comes to thinking about money. And I have a podcast episode on that. It's episode 171. And effectively, what I want people to think about is the fact that you can never consistently save and invest or stay out of debt if every single time a shock in life puts you financially back. So if your child needs an emergency hospital procedure and you're unable to take that money and get access to that money quickly, you're going to cash in your savings. If, like in coronavirus, the world started locking down and you were scared that you wouldn't have money because you didn't have an emergency fund, what I saw is people stopping their debit orders. And then what happened is that they missed out on when the market bounced back because they weren't actually investing over that period of time. So there are a few things that you need. The first thing that you need is a cash flow account. And the cash flow account is something to smooth your one-off expenses. So let's take vacations over here. If we work out that you need 10 a month for a weekend away and 15 a month for an annual vacation, if those are what we say that we're going to need to spend over here, the problem that I find, and the reason why people then get in debt over Christmas or the festive season, is because although they have a budget that shows that they are conscious that they need to put aside money for this event, they don't. So what happens is that if you don't go away that weekend in this month, and you don't obviously aren't having your annual vacation, instead of saving that 25, what ends up happening is that people spend that 25. And then when it comes to that vacation, the money isn't there, so they have to go into debt or take money from their investments. So your cash flow account is a savings account attached to your normal transactional account. And every single month, you must set up a transfer that is for vacations. And every single month, you put 25 there. And then when you need that money to pay for the vacation, it's there, so you don't go into debt. So that's the first one. The other little fund that I love is a YOLO fund, you only live once fund. And the reason why I think that is that each of us has something we like to do. Yours might be doing your nails. Another person's might be meals out with the girls. Your husband's might be a new iPad. Every one of us needs a little something that we can have in our discretion to spend. You know, I have a couple. She uses it for beauty and things like that. He saves it. That's what makes him happy. So I believe that people need a little bit of extra money just to do the things that they like. So then the next thing comes up, which is the emergency fund. And every one of us needs to save and have 6 months of expenses in our emergency fund. And when that happens, you're able to survive the knocks and bumps of life. I am absolutely passionate about this emergency fund, and I saw it come through in the coronavirus. Those that had emergency funds had one less thing to worry about. They didn't stop their debit orders because they knew that if trouble hit, they had 6 months stashed away. Those that didn't behaved really under real stress through that period of time, because not only were they worried about losing their job and getting sick, they knew that if they did lose their job and get sick, they wouldn't have an emergency fund. So you need 6 months saved up, and that usually takes 3 years, sometimes 4 years, to build 6 months of expenses saved up for your emergency fund. Then if you're saving for a goal like a deposit on a house or your next car, which you need to buy in cash, then you use a gold saving and then your retirement funds. So this is the budget that you use to set up the direct automated payments every single month that feed this moat around your fortress of your best life. So listen to episode 171, and that will help you get more information on these concepts, but use your budget to set up those direct debits and get them to go straight at the beginning of the month, and then you spend what's left. So that's the budget sheet. Please do email me and let me know how it works and if it's helpful for you.